Hey everybody, so we're working on the book description for In Trudeau's Kitchen, and I just wanted to make you aware of some things I've learned over the last few days about, one of the problems was when you get into contact with the spy world, if you're not in the spy world, because there's just a small number of people really involved in it, you don't understand anything that's happening. So one of the things I'm trying to do in the book and in the occasional YouTube video is to make you aware of some of the ways this game is played. You may think it's not relevant in your life, um, but on some level, it probably is, just in terms of the ways in which power brokers are manipulating consciousness through technology. It's all part of this. And then, obviously, in a situation like mine, where it's much more personal and much more primal and much more visceral and much more a civilian being specifically targeted by people in positions of power to silence, intimidate, defame me, drive me to madness, suicide, or death. They're lovely people. So I want to introduce this term to you that I just learned. It's called Mildec. Yeah, I may not be saying it right. Mildec. I'm going to read, and I don't like AI, but I'm going to read it anyway. The AI overview. Mildec stands for military deception, a term used in the military and beyond the military to describe planned and executed actions intended to mislead adversary decision makers. It involves creating false impressions about friendly forces, capabilities, intentions, and operations to influence adversary or perceived adversary behavior. So I'll give you one. So basically, it's all psyops, but it's a very specific kind of a psyop that is designed to give you false impressions about things so you respond in a certain way. And the common Mildec techniques, and this is why it's important for me at least, are what they call feints, Feints, and you can read about this online, demonstrations, displays, and ruses. I'm caught in a ruse. I'm caught in a Ruse Noose right now. There you go. Here's a new term. And so what it means, so basically what it means on the sort of vaster scale is that in the old days, let's say, I don't know anything about Russia and Ukraine in terms of what really prompted Putin, right? But let's just say, for example, somebody out there wanted Putin to start a war with Ukraine that maybe Putin wasn't planning to start. The old way of doing that is they would sort of bomb Russia and say the Ukraine did it or something. So that's easy. But now they don't have to do it that way. What they can do is they can create a ruse. So, for example, they can start sending him emails, or various people whisper things into his ear. There's sort of a whole sort of cacophony of things can happen that are basically communicating to him in private often, that the Ukraine is about to launch an attack on Russia. And, maybe for various reasons, he doesn't want to say anything. He doesn't want to acknowledge he's feeling frightened or anything like that. So he attacks first. Nobody ever knows what really happened. But it all started with the ruse that the Ukraine was going to attack Russia, as an example. So, in my experience right now, what's happening, I've been caught in a Ruse Noose for a period of time. And I'm not going to get specific about the uncomfortable details, but I'm going to give you sort of analogize. So just imagine that you were caught in a situation where you had made an effort or various efforts to disconnect from a politically significant figure, like Mrs. Trudeau. And for various reasons, things you knew, things you were told, whatever, there was a perception that your disconnecting was a threat to the political situation. And then various people, not her, but various people would step in, political organizations that orchestrate these things, off-book entities, on-book entities being used in a corrupted manner without court orders. All of this has been happening. And and then eventually they sort of, keep sort of coming after you. And after 52 months, normally I'm told that, after once a citizen finds out that this is happening, they kind of hide in their house and they're completely not threatening. Because of the nature of my personality and what I believe in and where I come from, I kept fighting back. To me, I didn't really see like I had much choice. They wouldn't stop at some point anyway, but I just fought back. And my understanding is what I've done is incredibly rare. You could call it incredibly stupid too, but that's a conversation for another day. So then they reach a point where they're like, okay, the best way to disable a threat like me, obviously defame me, intimidate me, all kinds of threatened incarceration, all those things, anything to stop me. But the best way is to prove that I'm what they call crazy. This has been going on forever. This is the game, the Martha Mitchell effect in the political world. So I had a situation where I was taking, there is a question of whether I was drugged, and I'm going to leave that for the book. But I was taking some prescriptions. My T3 in my thyroid probably got incredibly high because I didn't really need the thyroid med. I just needed a little boost. And then it combined with a sleeping medication that I had a problem with in another over-the-counter sleeping medication, the holistic world called Udream years before, and reached a place where it turns out I wasn't thinking straight, but many of the things I was thinking maybe were a lot straighter than I thought. But anyway, I get rushed to a hospital. I don't want to go to that hospital. I say not that hospital because we had problems with the cops in that town. And I get taken to that hospital, and various things happen with the blood, whether the blood was taken. There's a lot of questions, like good, solid, legitimate questions. And I end up with a psychiatric resident who declares me, a psychotic break. In other words, I'm not living in reality because of the perceptions I had because of the effect these drugs had. The practitioner says, we're going to Form 1 you. And I said, no, I'm not going into a Form 1. I'm not a threat to myself or anyone else. And she said, no, it's fine, no problem, which I'm told is unusual. They're going to Form 1 you, you're being Form 1. It seemed obvious to me in this situation, the goal was to get the diagnosis. Okay. But then afterwards, I stopped taking the pills. My mind returned back to my normal mind, slightly neurotic, but not insane. And so they couldn't do anything with that, right? Like I went to a psychiatrist. They sent me in and said, can I come back and process this with you? And she said, no, you don't have a psychiatric condition. We need to reserve the spots for people with psychiatric conditions. So this techno-terror team was fucked because I wasn't crazy. The diagnosis was adhered to prescription medications. So now there's been an effort made that sort of started before then, and I think, and certainly has continued recently, to create a belief. It's a ruse, right? It's a rigged scenario. And a number of different individuals and organizational entities and systems have been involved in this, all, including media, all of whom have an incentive to declare me crazy so that when the book comes out, I mean, it doesn't really make a lot of sense because the book it's all documented, like it's a solid story. So I don't even know that this is of any value, but in the event, they're trying to make me look crazy. So I'll alter the scenario a little bit and sort of imagine that the thing that could make you craziest is thinking that your very best friend throughout the whole process of interacting with you and supporting you through this situation was actually working for the enemy and the team around the enemy that were trying to destroy you and kill you. Okay? Imagine if you're the type of person who's so connected to that person, say it's even a sibling or something, that you're so loyal to them and their loyalty to you means everything to you in a situation where they make everybody push away from you, because that's the first thing they do is they isolate you and then they try to show that you're crazy. And when people are really isolated, they start acting crazy. So let's just say that was the thing they knew would get to you. So what they do is they start planting seeds. I think they call it seeding beliefs with various imagery online, with various things that you might see suddenly showing up in your social media feed that other people aren't necessarily seeing, all things you can prove evidentially, that keep leading you in the direction of believing that your dearest and closest friend and ally is actually working for the other side, is providing information, is stealing your tape recorder when they're sleeping over at the place one night. All kinds of things go missing, all kinds of things. So let's just say you reach a stage. The goal of this is for you to reach a stage where you start going public with it. Not where you say to your buddy, hey, are you working for the other side? Maybe a little, but really what they want, especially with a social media guy like me that can't shut up, is for me to go online and say, I can say with absolute certainty that my best buddy is working for the team of people protecting the Trudeau's politics, blah, 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 or, whoever's involved in all these different things. Now, I don't go public with my thoughts on the Ruse, because even though I didn't know the term Ruse and didn't know about Mildec, I sensed on some level I was being worked. Now, sometimes they do this because it's true that you've been betrayed, and they want you to know that you've been betrayed, so you'll either end your own life, and people do for things like that, or you'll at least go public and they can declare you crazy and bring in and put drugs in you and put drugs in a guy like me. I'll just be comatose forever and not be able to do anything about it. Or it's not true at all. The nature of the ruse, if they're good at it, is they can make it so definitive on so many different levels that you're absolutely sure that it's true. True, untrue, whatever. Doesn't matter. The point is they want you to hold this knowledge and belief so you act out. So this has been happening recently in a different context. And this is why it's important, if you ever get in a situation like this, to start talking to people in the field. I got this information from a military intelligence person out of the US. Just the moment I saw the word ruse, it's like everything lit up inside, and it was like, that's what they're doing. Right? Then they come online and they get fake accounts saying comments on my posts that allude to this, whatever it is they're trying to get me to believe, and that's what they've been doing. You can read them. I didn't remove all of them around this particular context, but this is what's happening now. This is what all of these so-called smartphones are about. I mean, it's all, the term smartphone is diversionary cliche. There's nothing smart about them. They're just manipulation devices. They're weaponry for power brokers to create the world they want. People who really want more power. Just think about it. Like, there are people who already have so much power, they probably never have to work again a day in their lives, and they want more power. I mean, who are the really fucked up ones on the planet? Them. But so if you're following my story, and even if you see me start putting up posts that seem a little bit paranoid, it's not because I'm actually that paranoid. It's not really my thing. I'm certainly more aware of my environment after 52 months of this garbage, but it probably means I'm being rused, and it would be helpful to me if you just wrote on a comment, Jeff, are you being rused? Because that's what they're doing with Mildec. And they're not just doing it with, because it's a military term doesn't mean it's confined to the military. Cops do this, off-book people do this whole investigative entity world does this, and various people use social media platforms to do this too. And I talk a lot about that in the book. Anyway, the book description is almost done. I really like it. It's the longer description. We'll need a shorter description too. But anyway, I'm going to keep coming on YouTube and just sort of keeping you alive to this, because it helps. I don't know if it's of any interest to you. I hope some of it is, but it helps me because they really isolated me. They really turned people close to me against me. That's part of the ruse, calling them up, saying, can you believe what Jeff said and did, without giving them, and people go, oh my God, he's really gone crazy. It's not what's going on here. I was in the Ruse Noose, and I'm out now, and hopefully I can keep it that way. Thanks for listening.